Hello again. This is the continuation video of the previous video I made yesterday about how to play Dune. In this video I will go through some additional details that I maybe forgot to explain in the previous video, but I'm also going to show you how to play with Automa or the game called Dune Shadow Emissary. So before I explain how the Automa works, let me go through some cards and some new icons and things that are added to this game that you will not probably see in Dune Imperium. So you will notice that some of these cards, let's go with this one, have some additional icons that were not in Dune Imperium, like this one here. This icon represents the faction token, but if there is not a specific icon of the faction, this means any faction token. And these effects, as I explained previously, are activated when you send an agent, so you need to have these specific items to activate some special ability. And keep in mind that there are some cards in this game that doesn't belong to any faction, like this one. It's called House Accusations, and if you look at it, it's not Bene Gesserit, it's not Spacing Guild, it's not Emperor, it's not Fremen. These cards, I think there are 16 of them, you can decide to remove from a deck and don't play with them. These are really powerful cards, and they have the effects that are absolutely gonna may sway the game in some other. I mean, these are the cards you probably want to go for if you see them. I call them advanced cards, but I always, in every my playthrough, I use them because people just like them. They're absolutely unbalanced, but it seems that people just like to have completely unbalanced cards in it. So this one, as you can see, if you have any faction token, it says choose a player to remove his one banner. Meaning that even if you place the banner on the location with this card, if you activate this, you can choose a player to remove the banner. House Accusations, he didn't get that location. Any card that has these little icons with you, like an eye, those are intrigue cards, and this also gives you 2 Solaris. This card here is, you have an option. It says either take 1 card, and when it's green, it means from the Imperial row or from the top of the Imperial deck. Or take 1 card from your discard pile back into your hand. This is what this little other card icon with the little green arrow pointing up means. So the green is basically take a card from the Imperial row or from the top of the Imperial deck. The one is on the right is get a card from your discard pile back into your hand. It's called, this action actually called revitalization. So you get one of your characters you play previously to play again. Again, really powerful. This card here, Space Liner, is pretty powerful. If basically it's gonna give you lots of troops. Now these troops, if it's not written, always go into your garrison. That's what I want to show you here. So it doesn't have any text, so you get 3 troops. Now if you already have an agent that is on the conflict space, you can send them directly into the conflict, because remember, any troops you're getting while your agents standing on the conflict space can go directly into the conflict, +2 from a garrison. So that's also is in play. This one here, it says if you play another Bene Gesserit or guild card, you get 1 intrigue card. So this means that if you play, let's say, Truthsayer, which is Bene Gesserit, you can also activate this in the center. Otherwise, you don't get anything. So in this case, if I want to activate the ability from this card, I do have to have some Bene Gesserit or guild cards already in play that I play from my previous action during the turn. Also, whenever you see this icon here on the bottom, this is one of those faction tokens. In this case, it is a guild, Spacing Guild faction tokens. And remember, anything on the bottom of the card, when you activate it, you place it on the card. So I would have to have a faction token and place it on the card, which is important. You'll see why, because there are some intrigue cards that actually can steal these. together with your card. So you get 1 sword, you get 3 Solaris and 2 spice. This one, it says randomly take 1 from any other player. So you can take 1 card from the other player from his hand. This icon here represents the Revitalis getting your exhausted agent back into your hand. Those are the agents that were used during the auction. Not the ones that you sent on the errands, but used during the auction. This is 1 spice. Here you get just any faction token. And again, if it's not specified, if it doesn't tell you like get it from a player, it is always from the factions board. Just so you know that. Let's see, do we have anything else similar here? This is the Emperor Bashar card. You get 2 troops or you get any faction token. Pretty powerful. And if you later spend the faction token of the Emperor, you get 2 swords. This is also one of those cards without any, that doesn't belong to other factions but are really powerful. Like this one says, if your garrison is empty, you get 2 intrigue cards. And intrigue cards are really powerful in this game, so you probably want to snatch some of them. And if you have a Fremen faction token, you also get 3 spice. And so on and so on. So you can already understand, like Fey Rauda Harkonnen, although should be in the Harkonnen faction, he's not in this game. So he's one of those, let's call them like, you know, jokers that you can use just for really good special ability. What is important is that political power of all of these cards, because there are 16 cards if I remember for each faction, when you get them all together they will give you the same political power if you manage to, you know, collect all of them. Some of these cards you have like copies, and some just like 1 and that's it. Alright, let's see, is there anything else? Here's another one that says if you play another Bene Gesserit card, you know how that works. Pretty powerful. With 2 spice you get to draw 2 cards, and having lots of cards in your hand is also pretty good, because the more cards in your hand, the more options you can have for really good turn. Alright, so this is only that I want to show you on these cards, these new icons. Also here, let's see, on this Mentat card you can see that to activate his bottom part of the card on the blue, you actually have to use a card from your hand of the specific agents, in this case in Spy. So to activate this, I would have to do this. Place a spy on a card. Keep in mind that someone can stall this. There is a card that can actually stall that. Let me search it. Here it is. So as I said, in this game there are lots of things that can happen. This one says, this is one of the intrigue cards. It says, take 1 played card that belongs to another player and place it in your hand. Collect any tokens or resources from it for yourself. So in this case you would get a card, but it is a specific tokens or resources. This is not a token or a resource, this is the agent. So you cannot take the player's agent in this case, but you can take his card. I would be able to take the House Mentat from House Building. He would now work for me if I would play this. Meaning also that if I play some faction tokens on the card, let's say here I need 1 to activate the bottom, and someone plays this later on, he would take the card and the faction token, and then I'm in trouble, right? He got a really powerful card. He also gets a token that he can use later on during his turn. So there are some things in this game that you can really do that's gonna make your opponents very, very mad. So be careful about that. Anyway, let me go how the Automa works. So to play with Automa, you will notice this is one of the Automa cards. They are all numbered. Also there are, let me check how many reshuffle cards. I think 4, yeah, 4 of them. Let me actually get one of them. Here it is. So this is what you can find in the Automa deck. This is how most of the card looks like. Oh, they're all numbered. This number here in the here in this corner. This is a card number 303. You have value for auctioning, so political power that the Automa is gonna use during the auction, and you have what the agent is gonna do, and you have like a little combat intrigue card that this Automa is gonna use during this phase here, during the conflict resolution. So Automa will always, where it's in the conflict, use a card. You're gonna draw a card for adding swords, basically killing your troops and adding some, maybe even more of its own troops to the conflict. So you need to watch for that. Some of these go up to 5, as you can see. So it's pretty powerful. Some of them are just blank. Now, we also have these reshuffle cards, and every time you draw one of these, you're gonna set it aside and you're gonna reshuffle the whole deck. So Automa could reshuffle like 4 times during the playthrough, just so you know. And by the way, if you need to draw from the Automa deck, you're gonna take all the cards from the Automa, shuffle them together and continue drawing, but that never happened in my playthrough, so because there are actually 36 cards. Maybe if you're playing a 4-player, 3-player game with the Automa, but even then I don't think so it's gonna ever happen. Anyway, so let's go through one of the Automa rounds. So during the round with the Automa, and to set up the Automa, it's quite simple. Let's say the red player is going to be Automa. You shuffle this Automa's deck. Automa doesn't use these cards. It's going to have it in its stash, but it's not going to use cards to send agents, and Automa do not use agents. So you can freely set these agents aside. Automa do start with 2 troops in the garrison. It also, of course, is in the lance red track as always. It has, but it's not going to use the second one to do some action on this faction board. And Automa do start with 1 spice and 1 solari. So this would be the starting for the Automa. And Automa also get one of these Shadow Emissary intrigue cards, but it is open knowledge. You're going to keep it open because depending on this card, that's how the Automa is going to work with this deck. So in this case, Automa is working for the Fremen, and the rest of the setup is the same. You're going to have, let's say this is like a 2-player game, you and Automa. You're going to have 3 locations, and everything's gonna, there will be cards here. Play some cards. Bam. So in Automa, again, you will always be the first player with the Automa, so it's not going to get that token, but then it's going to change on the next turn unless you manage to get, you know, first player token again. And Automa can get the first player token if it manages, you know, to get the last of these faction tokens during the play. So that could happen just like with a real player. So during the auction phase, let's use this, Automa will draw 1 card and place it face down, and you're gonna do the same. Remember, if you are not participating in auction, you cannot get cards from the Imperial Row. That's the only way. Well, there are some, of course, maybe there could be locations that give you cards. I don't see anyone here right now, but usually you're gonna participate in the auction, at least in the few first turns. Maybe later on when you get lots of cards, you may actually opt to keep your agents to have you really big turn. That's just your strategy, however you want to play. Then you're gonna reveal you and Automa. Oh, okay, reshuffle. So I would reshuffle, set this aside, and draw again. So whenever you see the reshuffle card, just reshuffle and draw again. So in this case, Automa would bid 2 political power, and let's say I bid also 2, and if I have a first player token, I would be first to take a card, and let's say, I don't know, maybe I took this card, and then Automa would take the card trying to get the one with the belongs to Fremen faction. So it will look in the Imperial Row and it will look the highest Fremen faction card. And right now we don't have any, so let's make a little example with the Fremens. Okay, let's put this one and this one. This would be, I think, good example. Let's shuffle these two back. Put these two on. All right. So if there are multiple Fremen cards, it's gonna go with, that has the highest political power. If there are two of the same political power, doesn't really matter which one you give the Automa. You can go first from a left if you wanna. Really doesn't matter. So in this case, Automa would take this card and put it in its stash. It's not gonna use it, but it's gonna score it at the end of the game. So that would be auction for the Automa, and then you would place this card in the discard pile. During the sending agent phase, depending who's the first player, doesn't really matter, Automa will send an agent, and this is where you're looking at this agent part, this with the blue ribbon here. And this is what the Automa is looking for. So I'm gonna set some examples. Let's say blue player is in the conflict here. Let's say Automa is in the conflict here and already have one banner. Okay. And let's say there is also conflict here. And blue is there in the conflict also. So the first thing, Automa is always going to go from left to right and from top to bottom. It's gonna prefer the first one of these locations, so it's going to go around, that it already has its own banner there. So this is the priority for the Automa. So if it's already have one banner here, this is the first place it's going to try to look to put its agent. And what it's looking is any conflict space that has a Mentat symbol. So here's a Mentat symbol, but not a conflict space. If there is not any, then it's going to look any conflict space that has a Fremen symbol. No. And then lastly, it will not be able to go here. So it's going to try to go somewhere else. But this is their priority. Always go where they already have its banner. The second priority is if any card that has actually, let's change this a bit. Let's do it like this. It's gonna go to any location that already has a banner of the opposing player. Doesn't really matter if he's in the conflict or not. In this example, it's also the conflict. But first, looking, to increase its banner power. If it can't go there, then it's gonna try to prevent players to get their banner there by just putting herself into conflict. And again, you're gonna look, is there a conflict space with the Mentat symbol? No. Is there a conflict space with the Fremen symbol? No, there is not any. Alright, well, can't go there. Then the third thing is looking where the other players are in the conflict already. And it doesn't mind if it's maybe is Automa in this conflict. That's even better priority for Automa, but always looking where is like so her banner of other players, and where it's the other players or her in the conflict. Okay, so in this case it will get here, and again you're looking for the conflict space with a little sword that has Mentat symbol. No. Is there a Fremen space that also is the conflict space? No. If it can't find any of these spaces, it's gonna go to the first part here, and then it's gonna just try again looking where's her banner, other player banners, and the conflict. But this time it doesn't look for the conflict spaces, just any space it can go. And here it actually can go. As you can see, this space does have a Mentat banner, and it's gonna get any bonuses from the space. Now, if there is a space, let's say And by the way, Automa doesn't have to have any icons or pay any resources to go to space. You just go there and take any bonuses. In this case, it's going to get one of the intrigue cards. And how much Solari? Let me see, 2 Solaris. And it's going to collect them. It's not going to use this spice, nor it's not going to use these Solaris, it's not going to use these conflicts cards, but it will collect them, because at the end of the game it's going to be points for the Automa. Okay. Now, if this was blocked, let's say it is blocked by some other player, it will look the Fremen icon, so it doesn't have to be conflict. See, she doesn't look for the conflict anyway, just for possibility to, you know, put it on the Fremen spot. No. Is there here a Fremen spot that can go? No. Is there here a Fremen spot that can go? No. Well, if it happens that it can go anywhere, so again, if this is blocked, actually if this is blocked, it would again look for the Mentat space, but let's say everything is blocked. Can't go here because it's blocked, and everything is blocked here. So if everything is blocked and it cannot get anywhere agent, instead it's gonna take one of these faction tokens represented on the card. It's gonna take the token and immediately is gonna be pushed 2 spaces forward, like it paid political power for it. That's what the Automa is gonna do. So every time it takes the token, it's gonna push itself 2 spaces forward, which is gonna be points for the Automa later on. And that's it. This will be going to discard, and that's all. It's not going to use these tokens. You can steal it from Automa if you have some effects. And when the turn ends, this token will be returned to the faction board. Okay, so that's it. So that's how the Automa works. First, looking to any conflict space with her banner. Then to any conflict space with the player banner. Then to any conflict where she is in the conflict or other players in the conflict. So that's all. And it's going around and around until it finds a space where it can place. And first it's looking for any conflicts, because the Automa always want to be engaged in conflict. If there is not, then looking to any space where there is not conflict. If it's that blocked and it cannot go checking for each of these locations, it just cannot go anywhere, it's going to take the faction token that is listed on the card. By the way, I forgot to tell you something. During the auction, you're gonna check these numbers here, because Automa, this was the auction card, if I remember. During the auction, Automa will discard the card from the Imperium robe that correspond to these numbers, 3 and 0. So 0 is nothing, but the third card from the left will be discarded. So Automa would be discarding this card. And by the way, if Automa during auction cannot, there is no any Fremen cards that it's looking for, Automa will take the first card from a top. It's just gonna take any card it can. Now, keep in mind that Automa will also have one thing when it's at the beginning of the game. It's always priority also going to be these locations with these Fremen banners. Right now there are not any here, so it's just going to go around. But if there was a location, let's go like this. Let's find one Fremen location. Here it is. If there was a Fremen location, this is where the Automa would try to go. Now, if at the beginning of the game this was available location, this is where the Automa gonna first try to go into the conflict. Later in the game, if this is picked up and we have something like this, it has maybe banner here. Again, it's gonna go first for the location with the banner, and then for the location with, that corresponds to its, Fremen, what it's trying to pick up, because Automa always go for the points. So this will surpass her point of interest. These locations with that belongs to the faction that she wants to take. So even if it has like already banner here, it's gonna go for this first, then for the banner, then for the player banner, then for any other conflict. So I hope that's explained a lot. Now, during the sending agent phase, so after it does the second auction in the same manner, Automa is gonna always send the same number of agents as the players do. So if I, during my sending agent phase, send only one agent, Automa will also send one agent. If I send two agents, Automa will also send two agents. So it's always going to try to send the same number of agents as you. Just because it doesn't use agents, just use these cards. And it represents the Automa always like one step in front of you. So yeah, during the conflict resolution phase, wherever the Automa is in the conflict, you're going to draw one of these cards and you're going to look this bottom, and this is how many swords it's going to add to that conflict. So if it's in the multiple conflicts from top to left, and when you're resolving them, and from left to right and top to bottom, you will draw one for each and apply those swords. And be careful, Automa really have lots of these cards with the swords, so you have to commit lots of your troops and be ready to, you know, have some intrigue combat cards to fight it. Automa is pretty good at at the game. And last thing before I end this video, let me explain each action on this faction board. So let's go with this one here. So to get the Sardaukar Legion, you have to pay 3 political power from your discard pile, 5 Solari, and you get 5 troops in your garrison from your supply to the garrison. In Court Intrigues, you play 2 political power and 3 Solaris. You move 1 space on the Lanceret track, you get 1 intrigue, and you get 1 card from Imperial Row or from the top of the deck. Here, in the Spacing Guild, Trial Market is really interesting. And by the way, anytime you pay 3 political power and take a token, you're going to push yourself twice forward. And if you take a token and reveal this icon, you also get the first player token. So here in the Spacing Guild, same thing. For 3 you get a token. For 2 political power and any number of spice, you can buy multiple of these, but you cannot buy the same one twice. So for instance, meaning I can spend 1 spice and get 3 Solaris, and then spend 3 spice and push myself forward twice if I have that much spice. But I cannot spend 3 spice and push myself forward twice and then again do the same, spend 3 spice and put my... So I have to choose. I can choose all 3, but must be a different. So I can do 1, 2 or 3, but they all must be different. Okay, buy multiple, that's what it means here. Here for 3 political power and 4 spice, you get 4 troops in any conflict. These troops goes to from your supply, not from your garrison. And this basically simulates, it is a conflict space, and if it says in any conflict, meaning anywhere where you already are conflicted or not, you just get the troops there. Basically the Guild Highlander gets your troops on the planet, on the location, and just put them there, and that's it. Pretty powerful if you want to do, you know, surprise attack. Here with Bene Gesserit, Truth there is interesting, but probably later in the game. So as you can see, Bene Gesserit doesn't require for you any like Solaris or spice, just political power. For 3 political power, you can take 1 from each player, 1 intrigue card and 1 card from their discard pile, meaning that you can look through their discard and get the card, any card you want. Pretty powerful, especially in the late game when lots of players have intrigue cards. You go here and immediately you fill your hand with lots of cards, especially if there are like 3 or 4 players. Then you can only imagine like getting 1 intrigue from each player and 1 from their discard. You can build your hand and your intrigue it's gonna be pretty good, you know, truth there. Many people don't go here, totally forget, but this is could, you know, help you a lot. And it's gonna piss other players because you're gonna probably take the best card from their discard, and and it goes directly to your hand. And you know, you revitalize and get cards. Pretty powerful, just for 3 political power. Coexisting is also interesting, but it costs pretty much 4 political power. Whenever you see this icon, means conflicts, something about the conflict. It says move any number of your troops from one conflict to any other conflict. So let me show you how that works. Let's say I'm a blue player and I have lots of troops here. Maybe red is also there with 1 troops, and red is here but not troops. So I go here and I said move any number of your troops from one conflict. So from here, let's say I take 2 and place it 2 here, and now I am also in this conflict here. Simple as that, coexisting. I could also take all of them. If I think I may be not gonna win here, I can put them in the other conflict where I might win. Again, pretty powerful. Remember, Bene Gesserit, good faction to, you know, to do some tricks. Then we have Fremen. We have a spice smugglers for 2 political, but Fremen are a bit hard to work with. As you can see, you need their faction tokens first. Now, will you get them from the cards, stealing from other players, or just getting it from here? Doesn't really matter. But you have to hold to them on the other turn if you don't use them to use these options. Spice smugglers for 2 political power, and for the faction token you're gonna return it here. 4 spice and 1 card, pretty good. But again, Fremen's a bit too hard to work with. This is much better option here. It's good if you really need spice, you know, and especially if someone do a sabotage card. That is a tech, really bad sabotage card, and take all your spice. For 3 political power and using Fremen token, Lisan Al Gaib, current conflict, but only current conflict, meaning the conflict you are already in. So for instance, if I'm not in the conflict here, I could not use this ability in this conflict. But here, if I'm a blue player and I'm already in this conflict, I can get 2 spice, 1 intrigue cards, and 3 troops putting directly into this conflict. So pretty good if you want to change some things, you know. Having these Fremen ability can help you to get like suddenly your troops get those Fremen fighters that jumps in and helps you out in the conflict you're already in. So that's all the actions, and I explained how the Automa works. One more thing with the Automa, it is the scoring. So the scoring for this card is the same as for the players. You're gonna go through the Automa deck that it will accumulate cards for each 3 political power plus anything from the Landsrad, right, from this track. You divide it by 3 and that's how many points Automa will get. Then it's gonna get points from the location card it's got, plus additional for the location that belong to this faction. And if it by some chance hold any faction tokens at the end of the game, Automa will also get 3 points for those. Now, how does it score these intrigue cards, Solaris and Spice? So for each 3 Spice, it's worth 1 point for the Automa. For each 4 Solaris, it's worth 1 point for Automa, and for each 3 intrigue cards, it's worth 1 point for Automa. And that's it. And if by any chance you are tied, again, as I said, look for the Spice. It's gonna be breaking, tiebreaker, and then Solaris and maybe intrigue cards. So that's it. You can use Automa to play alone. You can use Automa to play 2-player and Automa. I mean, if you want to do that. Actually, my live playthrough, I did that, and it was interesting. Having one more player, just, you know, who is also capable to, you know, block you on spaces and also looking for the points. You saw that it was really close. The first player has like 28 points. Automa was 26. Well, pretty close. Anyway, that's it. With these 2 videos, I think you will be able to play this game without any problems. If you have any questions, you can ask them in the comments, or you can ask them on the BGG page or in the VIP thread of this game. So that's it for that. The next thing I need to do is prepare print and play files. Thanks for watching, and see you next time. Goodbye.